You mentioned previously the implications for company structures that arise from the market architecture plan. I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. Why are structural arrangements for competition important?
Well, the critical thing that any new entrant will want to know is that they face a level playing field. And the rules of the game, the market codes, are set out in a way that there will be very clear rules so that new entrants can have that confidence. Now, the question for a water company today is, historically I've been vertically integrated, so I've been sourced to tap and back again with the wastewater. Now, how am I going to give confidence to an entrant that they can compete on their merits with me? So one of the questions that a company has to ask is, how best do I structure myself? Now, there is no reason why a company can't stay legally integrated, but the government also introduced an opportunity in the Water Act for companies to choose to exit the market and transfer their non-household customers, in technical jargon, outside of the regulatory ring fence, into a separate licensed retail company. So there are a range of possibilities between that. There isn't a single right answer, but companies do have to think very hard about how they want to structure themselves moving forward in order that both customers and those new entrants will have confidence.
You mentioned that retail exit was one option for companies. Can you provide a range of other options that would be available to companies that haven't yet decided which way to go?
There's probably sort of three broad choices that companies face. One option is to stay much the way they are, legally integrated. If they were to choose that, they're going to have to think very hard about how they would structure transactions or conversations between different parts of that business in a way that gave the new entrant and the customer confidence there was a genuine level playing field. At the other extreme, a company could choose to take its non-household customers and, with the approval of the Secretary of State, transfer them into a new licensed entity and have a real separation between that retail activity and the current business. That's probably the safest in compliance terms. There are intermediate options which would involve something perhaps like functional separation, which might involve moving the retail part of the business to a different part of the office or to a completely separate office.
And presumably those different options carry different costs and risks for companies?
Well, they certainly carry different levels of risk in terms of the likelihood of a new entrant or a customer saying this isn't a fair choice that I'm being given. In terms of costs, it's not entirely clear which one is, over the long run, the cheapest. Certainly, the more that one separates now, the higher the upfront costs are likely to be. But then the compliance costs on an ongoing basis would be correspondingly very much lower. So there's a trade-off between a sort of high immediate cost and a lower long-term costs, and much lower upfront costs, but much higher long-term costs.
And presumably there's a degree of urgency about this now.
There is a degree of urgency because that structural decision will determine how a company produces information about who it supplies and what it supplies at all the different sites. And the structure of that information all needs to be put into a proper new format, same format for everyone, in order to be put into the central systems, which will effectively allow the market to work seamlessly and to the benefit of customers.